DaVinci Resolve 17 for beginners. Today we want to accomplish three things. Number one, we're going to install DaVinci Resolve 17, which is the beta. Number two, we're going to, as we do and after we finish, talk about system requirements. Now, we've installed DaVinci Resolve on 4 computers. Today we're going to install DaVinci Resolve on 2 computers. One is a laptop, which I don't expect this to work, but I want to show you what to expect, what you're going to see, and the process we're going to go through. And I got to tell you, every computer I've installed this on, I've seen something different each and every time. And I've always told people in the past, install everything, and they'd say, what do you mean by everything? Well, in the past, everything meant install the database. You don't have the database, it's not going to work. Well, there's a whole lot more stuff. And I didn't realize till I started doing all this how long I'd been using DaVinci Resolve. People would ask me, how long have you been using it? I figured about 3 years. Quite a bit different. And I'll show you the versions I've got saved. And what I find curious is the versions I don't have saved, which I know I have, but it's on a previous build of a computer that's offline. That drive is offline. So it's kind of an eye-opener for me. So what we're going to do is an install, and I want to show you what you're going to expect and the version we're going to be using. So let's do the install, and if you're using DaVinci Resolve, okay, I hope you'll stay with us because there's some stuff you might not, think about that I hope this will help you with. For those of you that are editing but are thinking about changing, I got to tell you, if it'll run on your hardware, we've been using DaVinci Resolve 17 beta. And if it'll run on your hardware, it works better than Vegas Video. So, since it works better than Vegas Video, I mean, it's if it works, it works. One program we use that I will say right now before I get started with this, we use Boris and New Blue Effects. Some of our plugins for Boris had an update that said they would not work. That was okay. It didn't blow up the program. We have 2 different computers where we have New Blue Effects set up on. The first one we did not update. New Blue Effects would work with the DaVinci Resolve 17 beta. The other computer we did the update on blew it up. We could not use DaVinci Resolve 17 with New Blue Effects. So I hope everybody gets that sorted out because I got to tell you it's really annoying. But I want to show you after we get this installed what we'll try to do once it does install to figure out if it's going to work. We're going to look at the specs of the computers. We're going to take a look at the video drivers. We're going to look at the video adapters because that's pretty much where it's at. We'll talk a little bit about the age of the computers, whether it's a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, or a 6-month-old computer. What will work, what may not work. But keep in mind, this is all beta, so by the time this thing ships, may be a whole new game. But irregardless of where you are in that food chain, the most important thing is get installed, get comfortable with using the program now. It's a new learning curve. It's different. Give yourself a day if you haven't been using it, you've been using something else. And if you're new to video editing, give yourself maybe 3 or 4 days. Now, for those of you that have been using audio, it's a natural progression to go from editing audio to editing video, in my opinion. The reason I say that is I've been using Vegas Video for a long time. How long? I didn't realize how long, but at least since 1997. So I'm just saying. I've been using it as long as it's been around. So it's 97 or 98, somewhere in there. And whenever the first version came out. But anyway, been using DaVinci Resolve since around version, I think, 10 or 11. The only one I have that I can show you is 12, but I'll show you the ones I've got listed because I found it kind of curious. So I'm going to show you what you're going to look at, and this is the version we're using because change one thing changes everything. And we're using DaVinci Resolve 17 beta, and as you download it, you'll notice this is beta 17.0b1_windows.zip. And what I'll suggest is once we do the download, because it's a zip file, unzip that file. I'm going to go through all that. And then execute the executable file from within that folder that's been uncompressed. Why is that? Some applications, until they show me or tell me otherwise, some applications will say, do that procedure. That comes from doing a lot of the audio stuff. Now, the audio stuff, you may have a dozen or 2 dozen zip files, and once it hits the first, it executes the others in the install routine. This is one file, one install. Download it, unzip it, then run it. Now we're going to do this from a laptop, and the laptop we're going to be using, this is the Lenovo Flex 5. Now the test files I have on this drive are from a project that took me 2 months, and I became very much involved in that, and I have yet to finish editing that. So I use these as an example to create 2 tests. So what I'm going to show you is where you'll go to download the program. And what you'll do is go to blackmagicdesign.com. You can either click on products, or right now, since this is all new stuff, if you'll just go to the index page, it'll show you introducing DaVinci Resolve 17. Click on the free download, scroll down, you'll get a link for it. DaVinci Resolve 17, professional editing, color, effects, and audio. And it's very complete with what you can do. Once we get this downloaded and installed, as it goes through the process, it'll tell us if the processor qualifies, it'll tell us if the video card adapter qualifies. And at the end of it, there's a README file that I suggest read everything in there, because it tells what version of the video driver you need to be using. And with that said, I will say, again, this is beta. Of the 4 machines we've run it on, 2 it would not work, 2 it did. And these other 2 machines we're going to try. This first one, I don't expect it to work. How we're going to test that? Once it's installed, we'll take a couple of clips, we'll create a bin file, and we'll get more into that later. Put our 2 clips in that bin file, put those clips in a timeline, and then we'll hit play. If they will play, we can edit. It'll either blow up or it won't. I expect it to blow up. And then we'll run it on a high-end machine, and I'll tell you about the ones in between that are from 6 to 3 years old. So this laptop, which is a Lenovo Flex 5, is about 2 years old, but the technology on here is probably about 3 years old. So I've got it downloaded. We're going to do the install, and that's what I want to show you. So let's do the install. We'll minimize that, zoom out, and we will bring up downloads, the project, and I have all my files in here. I have my project set up, and I have my downloads. Now this is what I wanted you to see, how long I've been using this. I always keep track of everything. Am I a pack rat? I don't know. I keep track of things for a reason, because a lot of times I'll install something, and if whatever version that is blows up, Vegas Video was a good example, then I will go back to the previous version. Keeps life simple, because you know, when you're working, you need things to work, and you need to work now. So you hear where I'm coming from. So I wanted to show you I've been using DaVinci Resolve 17 on this set of machines, and the previous build of the machine that I had some versions beyond this. So this goes back to 2016, 11/5/2016, and here we are on 11/16/2020. So been a while, and you can see the versions I've used. You can also see the versions I skipped. 14 was fine, had some problems with 15. Apparently I deleted it. It was beta, and I always said stay away from the beta. But this time we're going for a beta. So we're looking at DaVinci Resolve 17.0 B1 for Windows. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to do an extract. I'm going to remove the check mark, show extracted files, because I don't need 2 folders open at the same time. I'm going to say extract. It'll do its thing. Now this machine has an NVMe drive in it, so the speed we're getting is about as good as we can do. It's not great, but if you're going to be editing a lot of content, I will tell you it's a 512 gig drive. That is not enough space to edit video. If I were to work on this machine, and if I were editing video, I would want a minimum of a 1 terabyte. I buy the machine with a 512 gig drive in it. I would put in either a 1 terabyte, or I would upgrade to a 2 terabyte. Now this particular machine has a USB-C connection, so all my data that I'll be working with and processing needs to come in through that USB-C. That's my fastest connection. I do not have Thunderbolt 3. So once we get this unzipped, right over here, DaVinci Resolve 17, we're going to do the install. It's going to ask us to install some things that we may or may not need. And I had one machine that had a Pro Audio interface I'll get to a little bit later when we do the specs and the requirements, that said I had to have those Pro Audio interfaces installed, even though I didn't have DaVinci Resolve BlackMagic gear. Now this particular machine is as we go through some of the specs as this is working, this particular machine is 4 cores. 4 cores is not enough to edit video with. And of course the display adapter in here is an okay display adapter for what it does, but it's not what you need to edit video with. And the video driver, because it's Lenovo, I let Lenovo do its thing and do all the updates. And I will say Lenovo put in what they thought was the most current driver, but I went to NVIDIA and downloaded the latest driver. Now, there's 2 versions of drivers with NVIDIA. One, you've got the gaming driver, and 2, you've got the studio driver. This particular machine no studio driver. So of the gaming driver, there are 2 versions. I downloaded just the driver. That's all we wanted. Once that's installed, because we have a driver that is more current than what DaVinci Resolve says we're going to need, we're going to see if it's going to work. I don't think it will, but we're going to find out. It's beta. Now, I want to point out, let's go back to the install. Now, the DaVinci Resolve installer, for some reason, does not have the database checked. You have to have that database or this is not going to work. And if you've been running DaVinci Resolve, once you install it, the first time you run it, it'll tell you to either back up the database or update the database. If you have an install of DaVinci Resolve, always back up the database, because once it's been updated, once it's been converted, there's no going back. You're all in. So if you've got projects that you're working on that involve a version of DaVinci Resolve, you don't want to do this. You want to wait till the final version comes out. But if you can risk this and keep 2 different databases, then you're all in. So I put a check mark by the database, PostgreSQL. It also shows the Visual C++ controls that are going to be installed. It already has check marked the DaVinci control panels, which I'm kind of surprised. That's okay. I'm going to leave that. It takes the program a little longer to load. More about those control panels when we get to the end of the video when I tell you about the bundle. So, and I got to tell you, that bundle is amazing. The bundle alone is a good enough reason to finally buy a license for DaVinci Resolve. You'll go from DaVinci Resolve to DaVinci Resolve Studio. And Studio, I'll say that till we get a little bit later. Back to the install. Now, the BlackMagic RAW player, if you're going to do 12K video, I'll show you a link on that. I'll put it up also in our video. You can download and mess with those 12K files to see what your system is capable of. The Fairlight Audio Accelerator utility and the Fairlight Studio utility. Like I said, we had one machine that said we had to have those 2 things installed or it wouldn't proceed. We were using a Focusrite Pro Audio interface, and I found it quite curious. Now, I would like to get my hands on one of those Fairlight controllers, see what we've got. Because for those of you that work with SDI audio, you're recording 16 channels, and I believe the Fairlight controller gives you access to 12 channels, which is pretty amazing. So you could do some real-time audio editing right there with your video. The way that's integrated, it just, I think it'd be an exciting opportunity. So back to the install. So the only thing we've checked, back up at the top, is the database. I've mentioned the Visual C++, and of course the application. It shows what version we're using. So we're good to go. We're going to do the install. So let's go ahead. This is going to take a little while, a couple of minutes maybe. Database, Microsoft Visual C++, that's controls. And I got to tell you the effects that are here. The nice thing about this install, once it's done, and we're going to keep this real simple on the install, we can go through and look at some of the effects, and it will show us what's available by what we have installed now, but it will show us what could be available, what we could use within the application if we upgrade to Studio, which is pretty exciting when you think about it. And I got to tell you, doing overlays with this, the default overlays, they work. Bulletproof. And I was very pleased with the render time on this. It did not choke on the systems we were using. The 2 systems we've used so far had AMD video cards. They were the AMD workstation, the Radeon WX 7100 and the Radeon WX 9100. So I had much better performance, to reiterate, with DaVinci Resolve. You're going to hear me saying that quite a bit because I'm really into this program now. I loved it. I didn't like it for a while. I didn't care for some of the stuff that was going on with the betas. It was real finicky with hardware, and some of the system requirements they were talking about were just a little bit bizarre with some of the workstations. But now that we have access to workstation class computers, it's not that big a deal. And the fact that it's working on a beta, I'm excited. Okay. The Setup Wizard will install DaVinci Resolve on your computer. We've done all the extras, so now we're going to do the application. So we're going to click on Next. Got to have EULA, so we accept EULA. Next. Now you'll notice this is a 64-bit application because it's going to go to Program Files, BlackMagic Design, DaVinci Resolve. And the only thing I will say is where the media is stored, because I've only got 512 gig on here, I will leave the default for C drive. But for those of you that have the space, have the capacity, and have someplace else to put your media, do so. We'll do that when we get to the application. We'll choose that path. But right now, application. Click Install to begin. One more time, and away we go. So if you're on a spinning hard drive, you want to upgrade to an SSD. If your system has the capabilities for an NVMe drive, I would strongly encourage that. Now, for those of you that have a laptop, your number one, or actually two most important requirements that cannot be changed. Number one, the processor. Number two, the video adapter. For those of you that are buying a new computer, here's why we always talk about, and when we get to the running it, we'll go over this several times. When we start running the application, why a gaming laptop works for content creation. Why is that? Because you need a video adapter that can handle the graphics for all the stuff that's going on. I don't expect this one to work, but this laptop was not designed for content creation. What this laptop does, it does very well. If I want to do some artwork on it, some animation, I can manage it with this. I can draw with this. But if I want to do some rendering, I need more space. I need more processing power, not only for the CPU, but also for the GPU. And I believe the video adapter here, oh, here we go, running it through, doing the install, and here we go. Now it says public beta. Now right here, this is, I think, really, really important. Show me the README file. Click that. Now, if you get lost and you forget to check that and you want to go find that README file, it will be under the directory that we looked at, which is a program, BlackMagic, DaVinci Resolve. You can go find it. I like to check it because from here, I bring it up, I read it. We're going to take a look at it because it's really important. We're not going to read all of it. I want to focus on one thing. That's the video adapter driver. So we'll say, show me the README. And when it shows me the README, I'm going to take that README file when it's finished, and I'm going to save that to my program files. So I'll do a file, save as, and it says right there, that path is program files, BlackMagic Design, DaVinci Resolve, document. So I'm going to save it in the general folder documents, and I am going to give it the name DaVinci Resolve 17 Beta. And it's a rich text format, so I'm reading it with WordPad. If you don't have Office, you don't need it. Smart. And that's something else I want to emphasize. Always keep things simple, especially with your first project, whatever you're trying to do, whatever ideas you got in your head. You know, write that down, storyboard it, but your first project, keep it simple. And that's what we're going to show with this. So I'm going to save that out, and it'll tell you about multiple GPUs. DaVinci Resolve 17 only supports a single processing GPU on Windows, 2 GPUs on a Mac. So that gets that out of the way, and since multiple GPUs in Windows now can only be achieved on a RTX 3090 with a processing power of a 3080 and the stuff below it, if I were building a new machine, I would put at least an RTX 3070 in it, if you can get your hands on one. Back to the README document. So the other information about the database, I mentioned that. You'll want to read that. You can do color correction with this. You can do masking, which is some amazing stuff. The color warper, I mean, it's just very wicked cool. What I want to do is and the effects, you can do titling with this. You don't have to buy a separate program. If you want to do more elaborate effects, more elaborate overlays, then you can still with this. You just need to customize what's there. And if you have any plugins installed from anything else, like any audio applications or any other video applications that have effects that work in Windows, they'll pick up and they'll show in DaVinci Resolve. They'll either work or they won't. And I've told you my experience with New Blue Effects. I hope they get that sorted out because it is so annoying. New Blue Effects has been one of my favorites for a very long time, but man, it's getting kind of clunky. And even though I like New Blue Effects, it's just getting kind of clunky. I hope they resolve that so it'll be a little bit smoother integration. I mentioned about the audio. Wow, Fairlight Audio Core can support 2,000 audio tracks. So by bouncing tracks, you have access to 12 at a time. SDI audio is 16 tracks. This can go to 2,000 tracks. That's pretty wicked. So pretty easy to score a movie on this. I'm just saying. So for independent filmmakers, and of course, if you're going to do 12K, this is the way you're going to go anyway. I want to show you the video driver, the speed editor. It's a different way of editing. Fusion is in here. Motion graphics, open toolkit, codecs. That's the most important part, is the codecs. Well, somewhere in here was the audio driver and I missed it. Okay, NVIDIA encoder for H.264 and H.265. Wicked cool. You got to have H.264, but the fact they're now embracing H.265, that is wonderful. Support for the NVLink interconnect, which means if you have 2 GPUs, which specifically means, as we said a while ago to reiterate, on an RTX 3090. Okay, this will work with NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel, as required by your GPU. Okay, here we are. This was another document I saw this on. This was highlighted, and this one is not. So, a minimum NVIDIA driver version 451.82. It's important to know that because we have installed the video driver on here, and I'm going to show you how to find that information that is more current than that, which is, and this is again 451.82. I'm going to write that down. This is important. Okay, minimum system requirements. Windows 10 Creators Update, 16 gigs of memory, 32 gig when you're using Fusion. So keep all that in mind. If you're going to have a system that we're going to build for content creation, the 2 things you cannot upgrade are the processor and the video. The 2 things you can upgrade would be the memory from 16 gigs to 32 gigs. And most of you that buy a laptop want to get bang for the buck, so you'll get it with 16 gigs of memory. That's fine because that's easy to upgrade. And number 2 would be your drive space. If you've got, like I said, to reiterate, a 512 gig hard drive, it needs to be an NVMe, which is as fast can get. I would strongly encourage you, if that's the machine you're going to use, which is the laptop, it'd be a 2 terabyte internal. That way you can do your rendering on that drive, and then once you're finished, put everything off to the external drive. If you've got, use your fastest connection. And we did a video about data that we'll put a link up to, and we did that because it's applicable to this. You want to go with whatever your fastest connection is, but also your lowest common denominator. If you're rendering, fastest connection. If you're just offloading your data, lowest common denominator, which would be like USB 3. So, and again, since we don't have Thunderbolt 3, those are our 2 options. Okay, so we looked at minimum system requirements. We look at what's going to be needed. So someone needs a laptop, 6 cores or better, 32 gigs of memory. If the laptop comes with 16, that's fine. That can be upgraded. And it'll probably have a 512 or a 1 terabyte hard drive. That too can be upgraded. But you want to also check the ports. More importantly, not just the processor, check and see what kind of video adapter you've got. And you want to look at those video adapters and you say, why is that video adapter so expensive? Well, I get the question all the time. That's what we do here at Build or Buy. Whether you build a computer, which is what we advocate for a desktop, whether you buy a computer, which is where you go for a laptop. But even that, you still need to upgrade, because whatever laptop you find is not going to have everything. It's going to have the 2 most important things, which is the processor, number 1, the video adapter, number 2. And those other 2 components, RAM and hard drive, we can upgrade. We can show you how. Easy. Let's get back. Okay, so we've read the document. We've talked about requirements. We'll zoom out. Now, this says the installer is complete, so that means we are good to go. And it shows, interesting, in order to install DaVinci Resolve, you must install these components. So this is the second time I've seen this. And it didn't ask me this time to go back and do it again. It did on a desktop. That's why I was surprised. Now, I'm going to show you about the information about your video driver so you can check that out. Because we have NVIDIA down here in the bottom right, click that little arrow, and if you'll notice right there, that says NVIDIA settings. Right click on that, NVIDIA control panel. It'll pop up over here on the left. There it is. Takes a minute to come up. Now, right here it is. Game Ready Driver, version 457.30. Okay, and the driver that BlackMagic said that we need to have is 451.82, and what we have installed is 457.30. This happens to be a GeForce MX130. That's not real good for doing video editing, but again, I don't expect it to work. We're going to call the program up. We'll do the bin. I don't want to get into a whole lot of that, but I'll just say if you're going to do a multi-camera edit, those bins are important. Camera 1, bin 1, camera 2, bin 2, so forth down the line. 4 cameras, 4 bins. Put your media for that in that. So we'll create bin 1. We're only using 1 camera. We're going to take 2 clips out of about 35. Those 35 clips are shot probably about a gig's worth of data. And all we want to do with those 2 clips is see if that'll play. I don't expect it to, but if it does, that means we can edit. Let's find out. So that's the driver. That's the video adapter. Can't be changed. This Lenovo Flex 5 is a wonderful, again, to reiterate, laptop for what it does, but it wasn't designed for content creation, at least not for editing and rendering video. If I want to plug in a tablet to it, or if I want to use it as a tablet, it's pretty cool. But let's see what happens. DaVinci Resolve and the DaVinci Resolve project server, which is the database. The only one we need to concern ourselves with is the application. So we're going to execute the application. It'll take a little bit of time to load because it's going to look at itself and interrogate the computer, and it's going to do a quick test. Now, we've got a tour we can run. I would encourage you to run that tour, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to skip the tour, and I want this to test the machine. Great, you're almost there. Before jumping straight into a project, let's make sure you're all set up. So we're going to do a quick setup. You can skip it. I strongly encourage you to do this. Quick system check. Checking your operating system and graphics card to see how it will perform with the DaVinci Resolve 17. The operating system checks out and the graphics card checks out. That still doesn't mean it's going to work, but we're going to find out. We're going to try it. Let's see what happens. Okay, we'll continue. Now, we're going to pick our project. Set up your project. What type of project would you like to start? I will say at this point, this is important to choose because it will show us what we can do and what we can do. We don't have access to 4K stuff right now with the beta of the free version. We will have access to that kind of stuff with the studio version that you pay for. So we're going to create something in high definition, and we're going to choose 1080. That'll be the default. Now, whatever we pick according to the media, when we dump that media in and bring it into the timeline, it's going to ask us if we want to change the timeline to match the media. We're going to say yes. That's important stuff. But this step right now sets up the application to work as a default. And that can be changed. So let's stick with the default. We're going to click on HD 1080. It's got 720 grayed out. We could pick it. We could try to do Ultra HD, which would be 2160, or we could pick a resolution we could choose later. We're going to go with HD with 1080, and we're going to click Continue. That's the default. And remember, this is what type of project would you like to start. Always record in 1080. All right, project media location. Where would you like to store your media? This too can be changed. We can change it later. If you have more drives, then I would do so. But right now for default, we're going to leave it where it's at. We don't have an external drive plugged in, and we don't have enough space here to do a whole lot, but we have enough space to test this to see if it's going to work. But this too can be changed at a later time. This is the default. You just want to remember where it's at. So we're going to click on Continue, and this is C:\users, the user, who happens to be me, videos. We'll click on Continue. Now, for point of reference, if I were to leave this on this machine like this, I would not leave this defaulted to the videos directory. Why is that? Because I use multiple computers to do different things, and I might want to make it easier for this to be on the network, I would put this under the users where the shares are. So this would go under users public videos. That way it's easier to pull it through the network instead of having to put it from here to here and then go to there. So I just want you to be aware of that. So let's go ahead with the default and continue. Now, select your keyboard layout. Familiar with another nonlinear editor, choose the layout that you currently use. It's interesting it does not have Vegas Pro listed. Adobe Premiere Pro, Apple Final Cut Pro X, Avid Media Composer, or Avid, however you want to call it, Pro Tools. We're going to keep the DaVinci Resolve, which is the default. You're all set. We hope you enjoyed DaVinci Resolve 17. Absolutely. Let's see if it's going to work. Calls up the program, takes a little while. If you'll notice here it says looking for controlled surface. And again, we're on an NVMe drive. Got to emphasize that. Your results may vary, but I'm going to show you the results we get and what I expect. There's a lot of software here, and I tell you, this is bang for the buck. DaVinci Resolve 17 beta. Every beta that I have ever used from DaVinci Resolve would always blow up. So I've always avoided their betas like the plague. But this one, wow. Run on 4 machines, works on 2. The 2 that it did not work on, I did not expect it to work on. I'll get more into that in a couple of minutes. I want you to see what to expect as this loads. Program coming up. Now I will be zooming in and out so I can show you the controls and what's happening. I did find curious on one machine, there's the interface, let me zoom out. I did find curious on one machine that I tried to do a screen capture as it was running. That was a bad idea. It caused the program to crash. I didn't like that, so I didn't do that again on that machine. But it didn't run on that machine anyway, so it didn't matter. But I wanted the screen capture. You know, we'll do another video sometime about how to do screen captures. There's lots of ways to do it, and there's easier ways. We don't interfere with anything. That's kind of how we do this. Is if I can hear it and I can see it, I got it. So we've got the program up, and if you notice it here, it says no clips in the media pool. Looking at the interface, we have the timeline here on the bottom, media pool on the top left, and then we're going to have a preview window here on the top right. So if you happen to have an extra monitor plugged in, you can put that preview where you can see larger screen, full screen on a separate monitor. Which brings up another point. You know, again, if you're going to do content creation with a laptop, people with laptops are always about lightweight. Well, for content creation, if you're going to do a laptop and that's the only display you got, you want a big display, so 17-inch. This happens to be, I believe, a 15-inch. I wouldn't make a habit of editing on this, but let's see what happens. So no clips in the media pool. I'm going to right-click, and the print is really tiny in this program. So I'm going to be zooming in and out a whole lot. So I'm going to be zooming in so I can show you. We're going to right-click. We're going to create Add a Bin. We're going to put our media in that bin. So I'll double-click on that folder. I will right-click, and I'm going to import the media. And I happen to know where my media is at. I'm going to pull, let's see, I'm going to pull from Projects. Okay, this particular folder, I'm going to do Properties. Okay, this particular folder has 35 files in it. It's about a gig, maybe 10 minutes worth of video. So I'm going to open this folder. I'm going to pick the first 2 clips. So I'll pick clip 1, clip 2, and now that they're highlighted, all I have to do is open. Now right here, changing project frame rate. This you will want to do. The selected clips have a different frame rate to the project. Would you like to change your timeline frame rate to match? Always yes. You can't undo this action. Change. So now the timeline frame rate matches the frame rate of the clips. This is important. Now when you shoot video, if you're wondering what that information is, you need to check the codec. How do you do that? Easiest way to check the codec, if you have VLC installed. I'll show you right quick. This is not a side note. This is all part of the, and by the way, there's going to be a test at the end of this, so just kidding. Okay, let's go back and take a look at the properties for that file so you'll know what the codec is. Okay, I'll right click on the file, press the letter R, and that's a Windows thing. I will zoom in on this so we can see it. And if you notice, it's an MP4 file. I'm going to click on Details, and I will scroll down, and the only thing that we need to know, but I'm going to show you two pieces of information. One, the codec for the video, which is the frame rate of 29.97, and also the audio codec, which is 48. Happens to be 2-channel, and the bit rate is 254 kilobytes. So when I say don't mess with the codec, that's why. Now this could be 29.97 or 59.94. We happen to be 29.97. If you want crisper, sharper video, record the 59.94. This project, because of the end result for this little film we're going to put up, which is a documentary, I'll put it up on YouTube later, is going to be on YouTube. 29.97 was fine. Higher frame rate, better looking video, but higher frame rate, the longer it takes to upload it. So got to keep all that in mind. So anyway, now you know how to find the codec information, and that's why we wanted to match it. It's always easy to check. Always look at your media codec. No matter what you record, whether it's your media or somebody else's, before you ingest it into your editing application, you need to know what you're working with. This is how you find out. Okay, so we'll zoom out of that. Let's go back to our application, which is DaVinci Resolve. So we have our two media files. Now I'm going to hold down the Control key and click on both of those. And from the first one, I'm going to click and drag them down here to the timeline. And if you noticed at first, down here, and I can't zoom in because I can't release the mouse. But if you notice, I've got an arrow with a plus on it. So when I drop this, if you notice right here, it's on the timeline. Boom. When I release the mouse, there they are, and there they appear. Now, here's what's crucial. We want to save the file before we do anything else. So I'm going to do Control-S for save, and we're going to save the current project, and I'm going to call this what it is, which is Yard Drain Demo. I always like to give a project a date when it was edited, so we'll give this the date of 11/16/2020. We'll click on Save. Now, it has saved the file. Now here's the next crucial step. When I press the space bar to play that file, it will either play or the application will blow up. If the application blows up, then you're done. You can't edit with it. You got to move on. Wait till the next update comes out, which will be the final version. And even then, there's no guarantee it'll work. But if you want to find out when the final version comes out if it'll work on your machine, try it with the free version. If the free version works, then you want to go for the upgrade to the paid version. And the paid version has a bundle, but I'm not ready to do that yet. I won't get into it until we do the second install, which is going to be on a higher end desktop machine. Let's see what happens. You guys ready? I got my fingers crossed, but I don't have very high hopes. Okay, here goes the space bar. Well, that blows me away. That really blows me away. I'm going to hit the space bar again to stop it. You could have blown me over with a feather. Okay, I'm going to show you some specs on 4 different machines. This will be number 5 and also number 6 as I go through this. I've tried this on 2 machines that are 6 years old. And my guess on why it would not work with a current video driver has really nothing to do probably with the display adapter, but more with it didn't like PCI Express 2.0. So if you've got a computer with PCI Express 3.0, which pegs it at about 3 years or 4 years ago, your chances are much greater it's going to work. Now, can I put a newer video card in an older machine? Yes, you can, but if you're going to spend, say, $500 on a video card for a 6-year-old computer, I still don't know if you're going to get the results you want. The 6-year-old computer, which is an AMD FX 8350 on a 990 FX chipset, PCI Express 2.0, it cannot process the data. And I think it has something to do with PCI Express 2. It just can't do it. The video adapter in there has the current driver, as I've shown you with this one. Same video driver. Program blows up. As soon as I press play, we're done. Blows up. Did that on two machines, both of them similarly configured. One had 16 gigs of RAM, the other had 32 gigs of RAM. No go. The next machine we tried this on, and I'll show you a clip we did, was I believe it's about a 3-year-old machine. It's a second generation Ryzen, which is a Ryzen 1800X. Don't remember the chipset. I can show you the specs on that, and I will. Then we tried it on an X399, which is about probably 2 years old. Beautiful. Today we're going to try it on the TRX40, which is the next one coming up. I know that's going to play on. A Gigabyte TRX40 Designare with 256 gigs of RAM. Right now that machine has a 2080 Ti in it. It's going to be upgraded to, and you're hearing it first, to an RTX 3080. Pretty cool. How we got our hands on one of those, we got lucky. It was a blessing. So what I want to do now is, because my head's spinning, what I want to do now is go back to this. We're going to put the two clips together where we'll do a blend. Then we're going to do an overlay for just some text, real quick and simple, to give you kind of a feel for what it is. And then we'll call that our first project on this laptop, which I did not expect to work. And again, this is a 4-core processor, about probably 4-year-old technology, but it's about a 2-year-old computer. So 4-core processor, 16 gigs of RAM, with a 512 gig NVMe. I would call this the absolute beatdown minimum specs to run this on. And by golly, it works. But I didn't expect it to. So let's go back and blend those clips and do those credits, those overlays. Okay, what we need to do, if you notice here in the timeline, right here where there's a little segment break, I want to get this, and I've got the computer muted because as I move this down the timeline so that you don't hear it. And the reason for this, you'll hear the blah, 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 blah. So where these two clips come together and where I've clicked on this, I'm going to right click. First I'll left click on the left clip. Let me get the bottom taskbar out of the way. Taskbar settings, turn that off. Okay, so you can see the bottom bar. What I want to do is edit that spot. And right now I'm losing control of the application. A handler should pop up where I can, there it is. The handler pops up where I can right click and I should be able, I don't want to change speed, I'm trying to do an edit. I'll move the cursor back just a little bit, play over that. Now those two clips, see when those two clips change, it's a hard cut. I could leave it like that, but what I'm trying to do is a transition. So we'll go over here to the edit window, because if you notice down here in the bottom, you've got media, which is what we've done. You've got cut, which is what I'm not doing. We've got edit. So I'll go to the edit window, and when I edit, now I've got where I can see the audio, right click, and right here, I want to add a frame, cross, dissolve. So if you're not getting the results you want, you need to pay attention to what's going on the bottom. Again, media. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. We have media, and we want to go to the third one to edit. So we can see audio and video, because a lot of times working with video has a lot to do with the audio track. So I've got these two highlighted. Click on one, hold down the control key, click on the other video. Then in between, if you notice where I got those double bars, and all I did was move the mouse to that point, and that's where the player's at. I'll right click, and I'll do a cross dissolve. I can do 6 frames, 14 frames, 30 frames. Now this can be automated literally where I highlight all the clips and say do this to all the clips in one shot. So if I had 35 clips, all I have to do is Control A to highlight everything. And I'll show you how that works. I've clicked in an area where these are not highlighted. I'll press Control A. That highlights both clips. I'll go up here to the first one and it would repeat on all of them. So I'll press Control A to highlight all. And on these two, where I have my handlers, right click, and let's do 14 frames for a cross dissolve. Now this is important. Add transitions. Some of the clips selected have insufficient handles to apply the transition. You can choose to trim clips and shorten your timeline, are skip clips with insufficient handles. What do you want to do? We are going to trim the clips so that we get the effect we want. And if you'll notice, those are automatically blended. Now what we're going to do is let's get the player back on this side, and I want you to be able to see, as you watch here in this top screen, I will press the space bar to play it and see how that transitions. Nice blend. We didn't do anything fancy, just real simple. Remember, your first edit, keep it simple. And how I'm getting my play bar is I'm clicking my mouse, and it happens to be muted, so you don't have to hear what's going on. And that's the way the transition looks. Okay, that's all we need to do. Let's zoom out, and up here in the top left, I'm going to click on the effects library. We'll go to the effects library, and now we have our toolbox for effects. For crossfades, video, audio, open effects filters, dissolves. What we're looking for, and some pretty wild stuff, we're looking for the titles, which should be under open effects, but let's check this. There we are, titles. Now I can hover over these, and the video in the upper right hand corner will display what we're going to see. So what I'll have to do is hover over this, but I've got to zoom out. Some of these will work, some of them require the studio version. Let's find something that's easy to work with. So I'm going to pick something under Fusion and see what it does. Let me zoom out. We're going to do an overlay. And what I'm going to do is go back to the beginning of the video for an introduction. And you can see here as I hover over these on the bottom left, there on the top right, it shows you what's going on. I'm looking for something with a little bit more animation in it. Let's see, random right on lower third. Rotate in and out. Give it a second to render. That may not render. Okay, let's see if we can go down and find another one. I'm looking for, and there's a little icon representation of what we're going to see. Vertical reveal, vertical reveal. I'm looking for something with some animation in it. I want something clean, but something that's got a little bit more zip to it, but without it being gimmicky. I'm just amazed this is working on this laptop. I did not expect this. Clean and simple. That looks pretty good. Dark box text. Let's try that one. So what I'm going to do over here is I don't want this within the video, so I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to add a subtitle track. I could add like a video track, but I'm going to do a subtitle track. That'll be right here. And that one that we saw, which was dark box text, I'm going to click and drag that right up here and put that. Well, I locked up the machine. Doesn't like my choices. Yeah, I locked it up. And that's what happens. There's just not enough processing power here. As long as I keep it simple, I was all right. I got too aggressive. So that's what you get into when you don't have enough processing power. There's just not enough display adapter here to do what we need. Trying to get too fancy. So program's locked up. I'm going to close it, which means I've got to bring up Taskmaster and kill it. Oh, I hate doing this. Okay. Well, it is what it is. Okay, that killed it. Now I expect it blew up, and I expect the project is gone. We may have to recreate the project, which is no big deal. This happens. We're trying to do too much on not enough resources. But I want to show you what you could expect and what will happen. 4 cores, 16 gigs of RAM, and an NVIDIA MX display adapter. But the fact that it plays, it can be done. What I'm curious is I want to render out that file. Let's see if our file is intact when this comes back up. We won't know till we try it. And I don't want to take the camera off the computer because I don't want us to miss anything. Loading waveform monitor, which is pretty cool. And there's a lot of stuff in here for the money. Okay, let's see if it'll come up, if it'll play our file again. We'll pick it, we'll say open, and let's see what happens. It's only 2 clips. This is just a test. And there's our 2 clips. I will press the space bar and they will play. Now I want to see if my transition is still intact. So let's get down here to the transition. No, it blew out my transition. So let's do a Control A to select all. We'll go to the Control A to select all. Right click. Okay, let's go from the first one. We'll get our taskbar out of the way again. Oh, already is. Okay. We'll go to the edit panel. Everything looks good. Okay, I'm back at the cut panel. And right here where the blue bar is, that's where I want my marker at. And okay, Control A. Okay, we're not going to do any cuts. So we'll go to the edit panel. We'll do Control A. Click in the empty area, Control A, select all, right click, add 14 frames, trim the clips. We've got them blended again. We'll do Control S for save. So this time that should be saved. We're going to try again from the, we'll press home. Let's bring our cursor all the way back to the beginning. So up here, let's go to Effects Library again. Let's scroll down to Credits. I'll be a little bit more particular this time. I'm going to add a track. I'm going to add just one track. No, I don't want an audio track. Control Z to get rid of that. So click above it, add a track. So let's scroll up just a bit. There's the other track. So let's bring this down a little bit. You'll notice here I'm clicking and dragging so I can see this top track. So let's scroll down to our, right here where it says Titles under Toolbox. So we're looking at Titles under Toolbox, and I'll be a little bit more particular this time. I want something not under, let me scroll up. Yeah, I want something under the Fusion titles because I want to see if this will render. Oh, here's an interesting one. Slide from center line. Let me zoom out, see if this will play. Yeah, I like that. Slide from center line. Now, if you notice, there's a little star right by that. Let me zoom in on that again. If I click on that little star like that, or right down here, that now goes into my favorites, so I don't have to hunt and peck to find it anymore. I'll press Control S to save it again. Yes, it automatically saves, but so I don't lose my work. And what I want to do is I've added a video track, so I'm going to click and drag that right in here to that video track that I added right there. I'm being very careful and particular. Let me zoom out just a second so we can see what we've got. Now, if I press the space bar and watch the video, that's what we'll have for a text overlay. And all I have to do is within this window, I double clicked on it, and if you notice when I double clicked up here in the top right, I now have access to the controls for that particular effect. So I've got left text, and let's get over here on the clip and put that in about the middle, so that way we see both left text and right text. So I'll put over here problem, and then yeah, so for the left text I'll put over here problem, and if you notice problem appears here on the left. So now I need the right text, so I'm looking at left controls. Let's get over where we can see this, and all I need to do is scroll down to controls, and right there is right controls. So I'll highlight that text and I'll say problem flooding, and if you'll notice, that's my credits, problem flooding. So what I want to do is I'll take my bar, put it back to the beginning, and let's get this where we can kind of see both. Press the space bar, and there's my overlay, problem flooding. Then I could put another one right next to it that says solution whatever, and then follow that on as it goes through the course. And the point of this is when you see these two clips transition, and that will come up in just a little bit. I should have cut that down. There was the clip. That was the transition. So I'll press space bar to stop it, and that's the end. So let me zoom out. I'll press Control S to save, just to be safe. So we've done, to reiterate where we're at, we've created the bin. We've put our media within the bin. We put our media that's in the bin on the timeline. Then those two clips, we have blended them together. Then we added one overlay, Fusion, and let's get fancy and do one more. So I'll click and drag the same one, put it right next to it. Now, when that plays, I see my, let's start at the very beginning. So let's bring that all the way back over. So for the credits we see problem, flooding. In this second one, I might say solution. So again over here on the right, because I double click on the effect, you notice it's highlighted in red. And over here it says title. Let's scroll back up to the top, sample left text, and I will say solution, and I'll scroll down, sample right, and I'm not messing with anything else within this effect. And I'll say yard drains. It would help if I spell it right, yard drains. So now if I want to, again, let's get this from the very beginning to play it. I'll press the space bar. We'll see the first overlay we did, problem, flooding. The second overlay we did, solution, yard drains. Now a little bit of a jerkiness, it's probably mostly to do with the video adapter, but I'm curious to see how this is going to render out. And as this plays on the timeline, as you watch the video and you watch the media, when we get to that transition that we set, 14 seconds, there, done. I've got the audio muted, but we see it. Now the next thing to do, if I don't do anything else, I haven't done anything with colorization. This is just a 1, 2, 3 video. I'm going to go to the very last icon right down here on the bottom where it says deliver. See if we can zoom in on that. Right there, the last icon where it says deliver. When we click on deliver, we need to zoom back out. Up here on the top right, it says no jobs in the queue. So over here on the top left, if you'll notice, let's zoom in on that. We can pick where this stuff's going to go. Now, we can choose custom, YouTube, Vimeo, H.264 Twitter, And this probably has another one that I'm not going to scroll to because I don't want to mess up what we've got. I need to set a file name. If I change any of these properties, the file name gets blown out and it starts over, and I have to put a location, all that back in. So I'm just looking because what I want to know, remember the codec, we're 1920 but 1080. Our frame rate is 29.97. The quality, we want the best quality. It'll be automatic. The encoding profile is also automatic. We are not messing with the codec. 29.97 is the frame rate I want to keep, and the audio will be 48 kilohertz. Now if I do custom, or I can say YouTube, and I've got my 1080p, again 29.97 QuickTime, which will give me, it's either going to give me an MOV or an MP4. I don't remember. Shows how the audio is done, and it'll even upload to that location on YouTube if I choose to. Right here. If you notice that, put a check mark there, upload directly to YouTube. You just have to have that setting enabled for it to do that. Access to your account. So I'm going to stick with custom, which will be the same thing I would have picked on YouTube. And we're going to go with audio of 29.97. I'll show you, we're going to stick with the video of 29.97. I'll show you the audio, and it says render a single clip, which is what we want. Audio will be linear PCM, pulse code modulation, 16-bit. It doesn't show the 48, but that's what you'll get. And then the file, we need to name it. Shows disk space currently used, disk space used after the render. Because I'm curious to see how long this is going to take. So I'm clicking on video. I'm going to stick with the H.264 29.97. I'm going to give it a file name, Yard Drain Demo, and this is from the Lenovo. I will also give it a date, which will be 11/16/2020, or just 11/16/20. That's enough. Now, location. I'm going to choose a location. I'm going to put that under, I want to put that under videos. So this PC, videos, and I'm going to create a folder for DaVinci Resolve. Now, what I usually do is a folder called projects, but for this one, we're just going to say DaVinci Resolve. My media management's a little bit more involved, but for this, we'll say save. Now, that clip with that file name, with those properties, is in the queue. This is the part I always find kind of weird. It says no jobs in the queue. So let's zoom out. Right here on the bottom left. I'll zoom back in. Add to render queue. So when I click on that, and up here in the top right, we now have that file that I misspelled. Yard Drain Demo. I'm not going to change it. I can do that later. See, I corrected it here, but it's still remembering the first one that I had beforehand. I can change that. I don't want to mess it up. So the next thing to do, if you're looking, right there's a button that says Render All, which means I can create multiple clips to do whatever I want to do and then render all in one shot. So I'm going to click on that button Render, and let's see how long it takes. We're going to click on Render All. Now if you'll notice, it's playing on the timeline. We are not seeing playback in real time because we don't have enough display adapter to do that. But we are rendering two clips that have been merged together with a little bit of a blend. We've done a very simple credit out of Fusion in the beginning to kind of give a description of what's going on. I'm blown away with the fact that this is working on this machine, and this is beta. DaVinci Resolve Beta 17. Wow. And when this is finished, we will play the clip. I will unmute it. And then when we get finished, I'll show you a piece of the other clip, which is really not necessary because this is all you need to see. And we have a rendering in progress. It doesn't tell how long it took, but that was pretty doggone quick, and I'm pretty pleased and impressed. We did that with the beta. So now all we need to do is go find it. So I will do Windows flag E. I will go to Videos, DaVinci Resolve, and this will play with the Windows Media Player. So the first thing I need to do is I will unmute the audio. Now this shows this is on a decimator. Because we're HDMI, I have to plug in HDMI out of the laptop. So that decimator is doing the conversion for us. We might do something about that later for those that need cross converters. Cross converter lets me get one resolution into what I need for the video switch, which is 59.94. I won't get any more into that, just that's what that is. Okay, Yard Drain, we're going to play it. It'll play with the Windows Media Player, or it plays VLC.
Okay, we're getting started on this project. We were going to bust out the concrete.
Problem,
and also
flooding.
always going to bust out the pavers.
And all you're hearing is the actual audio that's a part of that file. So we're going to be able to salvage the pavers, which is really nice. Solution
so we're going to take a look
range.
here and kind of see where the grade is at. But all this is going to come out.
And I have other clips in here where you hear the jackhammer.
To the end of the patio cover. And when this gets re-poured, it should have a little bit of a pitch, mostly flat.
I think it's more important to hear the video audio than to hear me. So that was it. And if you notice the transition, pretty smooth. I kept my mouth shut. I'm going to go back down here and mute the computer just in case. So we did a project and we did it on this machine. What do you think? Pretty cool? So I got to tell you, I did this live. I'm impressed. I wanted you to see what would happen because I expected this to blow up. It did not. And I am impressed and I'm very pleased. This is a beta. Very easy program to use. Again, this was about DaVinci Resolve for beginners. I can run this on the other machine. I know it's going to work over there. There's no real need to. So I can say now that we've run this on 5 machines. When we do it on the TRX40 Designare, that'll be 6 machines. For those of you that want to see it, we'll do another video. We'll wait and see what kind of feedback we get on this. So again, this is a beginner's install. System requirements, we talked about that. I run a Bella Arc Advisor report on all the machines I do. So I'm going to show you the Bella Arc Advisor report on this so we can look book and verse at specs. And I'll differentiate in the machines and give you my take on that. So let me clear this out. I'll just take everything and minimize it, and I'll bring up a Windows Flag E, go to my downloads, my project files, and let's look at the specs on this laptop. So when I run the Bella Arc Advisor report, I always save it out as a compressed, but I also bookmark it so I can call it up again and I rerun it if I do anything different to the machine. Okay, this particular machine, what are we running? This is the only machine that I'm running Windows Home. All the desktops are running Windows Pro. So Windows 10 Home 64, and this happens to be version 1909. This is probably the only computer that's running 1909, but this program works. Now this is a Lenovo Flex 5, and we've got Lenovo Flex 5 4-core processor. That's an Intel i7-8550. So when someone says, you know, what kind of computer should I get? I'd look at this for content creation is the same way with streaming. You can work with something less, like some people say, you know, an i5, don't. You want at least an i7, but do not buy something that's got 4 cores. You have to know what your processor is. All you got to do is look at the specs, and if you don't know, because they don't tell you and they won't, you go out, highlight that, right-click, do a search on it. Intel will tell you what the cores are in that processor. Again, this is 4 cores. This is an 8550. You can see the info right here. We'll look at the drives. So 4 cores, 512 gig drive. This is a Samsung NVMe drive. The other 2 things that are important to know are the display adapter and the amount of RAM. This has 16 gigs of RAM. I could upgrade this to 32 gigs. But again, because I can't change the display adapter and I can't change the processor, I don't think, in my opinion, it's worth adding RAM to go beyond 16 gigs of RAM. For this machine, if I get to doing a lot of stuff with the tablet, then it would make sense to put in a bigger drive, probably a 1 terabyte. And the next thing, of course, is the display adapter. Let's take a look at that. So I'm going to zoom out, and let's go down to the display right here. So this is an Intel 620 and an NVIDIA MX130. And I would imagine, even though I've got the more current NVIDIA driver in, I would expect this is probably not using the NVIDIA display adapter. I'll imagine we were probably using the Intel adapter. That's a whole nother conversation. We got into that on the Asus laptop that we've got 3 videos on about the display adapter and who's on first. Which one are you actually using? Unless the application's been set to use the high performance display adapter, you're not. By default, it uses the low performance display adapter, which means we're using the Intel Graphics 620. I'm just saying. So of the 4 things that matter, this worked. If this is what you got or something around this, it's going to work. You've seen what it's going to take to make it work. The 2 machines that were 6 years old, it did not work on. But the X399s, it did. So that gives you some idea what you're dealing with. Now, we talked about beginner's install. We did that. We did a project. That's 2 things. We talked about system specs and requirements. That's 3 things. We've looked at that. Let's look at the bundle. Because once you do this version, you definitely want to go for the bundle, which is the paid version. And there's a lot of people that use the free version in businesses that don't have the paid version. Because of one feature. If you buy the studio version, you will get the control panel, a nice little USB control panel for free while the offer lasts through certain vendors. Should be available through all the vendors that have access to it. We'll put up a link as soon as we can find one. I know B&H is working on the deal. It's not a done project package deal yet. B&H said they're working on the logistics. I will find out, and I'll get in touch with Amazon to get up a link to this. Supposedly, if you put the 2 in your shopping cart, you'll get one. But there should be a bundle package. So we will get up the link to what we have, and we'll keep you updated on this as it stays current. But I'm going to show you the control panel you're looking at. So let's zoom out on this. Let's go over to BlackMagic's website, which I just happen to have bookmarked. DaVinci Resolve 17, and right there, the DaVinci Resolve Speed Editor. And I would strongly encourage you, if you notice up here on their page, on BlackMagic's webpage, it's blackmagicdesign.com. Introducing DaVinci Resolve 17. Watch that video. It's a video on YouTube. We'll put a link up to that video as well. You need to see that. It's a little bit long and you have to wait through the beginning. We might put a time code on it so you can get right to him talking. But right here, this speed editor, free with DaVinci Resolve Studio. Introducing a new generation of faster editing that combines the cut page and a custom editor keyboard. It will work with your existing keyboard. It's got a jog shuttle. For those of you that aren't aware, a jog shuttle lets you circle around and punch down to get you to frames instead of me using the mouse and moving my pointer back and forth. The jog shuttle gets you frame accurate right to where you want to be. And then of course your other keyboard access panels. It works in conjunction with your existing keyboard. Amazing piece of equipment. Now, will it work with other editing programs? Right now, until somebody writes the hooks for it, no. It's made for DaVinci Resolve. Can someone create the hooks for it? Absolutely. But don't expect it to work right off the bat. So that's DaVinci Resolve 17. I hope you guys enjoyed that. You want to be sure and get plugged into this to use in the beta so that way you're ready for Studio when it comes out. We've showed you the bundle idea, which is a great way to upgrade. It's just a matter of time. How soon? I have no idea. You can buy the license for Studio now, but it's still a beta version. But once the final product comes out, once they ship you the control panel, you'll be in business. So I hope you enjoyed this. I want to thank you for watching. My name's Gil Boyd. This is Builder By, and we are out.